and welcome to SteamLUG Cast, Season 4, Episode 10. We're recording this on May 13th, 2016. My name is Hero, and with me I have DerRidda.
Hello!
And Mohero.
Hello.
Let's start with what we have been playing lately. DerRidda, what have you been playing?
Not a whole lot. Pretty much right after the last cast, I started playing Tomb Raider over the weekend, got pretty far in. But I don't know if I wouldn't rather want to see some performance improvements before moving on, because my god, is that a poor performer. Then I played some Dying Light, didn't remember to turn off Steam Runtime and it crashed. But it took quite a while to crash, so nice. And the shotgun demo that pretty much felt like an alpha instead of a demo. So, hooray for well thought out technology for this time.
I thought Shadowrun was pretty cool, but there were some things that needed to be improved on, like the tutorial video.
Yeah, it's releasing this month, so let's see how that turns out. Did that tutorial video even play for you?
Nope. Well, the audio did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was...
After I cancelled the video because it wasn't playing.
Right. Exactly, yes.
And it didn't do full screen at all on my multi-monitor setup, even when I tried to force the full screen resolution and stuff. It just...
I don't remember having an issue with that, but I also use a weird window manager, so...
That was probably what saved you there.
Hooray for tiling.
So, what about you, Mohero?
Recently, I've been playing a game called Vector 36, which is a hovercraft racing game. It's still in early access. There's a few rough edges, but it's actually very good fun, and the developer is pretty good at responding on the forums when you do find issues with it. The video, in my opinion, doesn't do this game justice. It's actually very fun to play.
Yeah, I was watching you when you were streaming it the other day.
Yeah.
And it was way different than I expected. From the videos, it looks like it's a fast-paced, like, reaction-based racing game, sort of.
Not really, no.
Yeah, exactly. When I was watching you, it's pretty obvious that you have to focus a little bit on the flight.
A little bit, not too much though. Mostly when you're losing height and you need to regain some of that. You can adjust the ratio between lift and forward movement, which is quite neat.
Well, it definitely seems interesting. I also have seen that they intend on adding multiplayer support for that, so perhaps we'll have an event for that.
Yes, over the next few months. I'm looking forward to that. That should make it quite a lot more fun. I think there's some balancing issues they need to do in the single player as well. You seem to end up with some very, very fast ships in the beginner levels, so it's impossible to win. They'll lap you within a lap and a half, which is slightly weird. But I'll let them off on that. It's in early access, and so far it's pretty good. I've also been playing Mini Metro. I picked that up in the Humble Bundle. That was the Humble Eye Candy Bundle. This is a game that's been on my wishlist for a little while, and I've not really paid too much attention to it, but it's actually a very nice little puzzle game. I've noticed quite a few people on my list playing it since the Humble Bundle as well. And then I had a game of Civilization Beyond Earth with Hero, which was fine, until there's a game mechanic that I possibly don't understand, and I was tired and maybe a little bit grumpy, so apologies for that, Hero. But the game is quite fun once you get into it. I just need to understand the game mechanics a bit more. How about you, Hero? What have you been playing?
Well, there was that Civilization Beyond Earth game, but in addition, the other day I finished my first game of Civilization 5.
Hooray!
As Beyond Earth was actually my first Civilization game ever. So, playing Civ 5 with friends and multiplayer, never finished a game until just the other day when a bunch of us were playing cooperatively.
Okay.
Which meant we stayed up a little later than I was hoping, but we won.
Yeah, I did that with the Beyond Earth game with you. I think it was about 1:30 in the morning when I finally gave in.
Yeah.
Just one more turn.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I've also played a little bit of Arma 3, which, by the way, is on a free weekend right now, so I think that everybody should download it and play it, because it's amazing. Or not, but that's cool too, and I like that game. I was experimenting with some different missions, and mostly just playing with a few other people, just in small games. As well as, this was a little bit further back, but for our War Thunder event that we had. That was a lot of fun to me. So we were playing the tank battles, where before I'd only done the air battles. And I think the tanks are significantly better in that game than the air battles.
I have to agree. I've only done the flight stuff until that event 2, and the tanks are a lot more fun, I think. I think the simulation is better on the tanks.
Yeah, it was definitely very cool, and I played it a little bit after that as well, because that was just a lot of fun. Moving on to SteamLUG community stuff. For our past events, on April 29th, we played Left 4 Dead 2. On the 30th, we played Frozen Cortex. Last weekend, on May 6th, we played Steelstorm Burning Retribution, followed by on the 7th, Windward.
Did either of you two attend those events?
Nope.
I was at every single one of those.
And how were they?
Well, actually I just lied. I was not at every single one of those. I was at all of them except for Left 4 Dead 2. But Frozen Cortex was fun. We had 4 people playing, and we just each challenged each other to a game, and then most of us were just, we'd play our turn and then switch to the next game and keep doing that, so we were going around whenever a game was ready to go to the next turn, just playing it. So we got through a couple games like that, and that was fun.
Okay.
Then Steelstorm, we beat the main campaign in co-op. We were just playing the co-op. And then after that, we attempted to play the Necro campaign, and that was insanely hard. They basically use bosses as, like, the normal enemies. So we got through the first level and decided that we were done for the day.
Okay.
And then for the Windward event, you were there for that too, Mohero.
I was indeed. I was hosting the server, in fact, so I had to be there, really. Couldn't miss out on that.
Yeah, so we had a few people playing there in Windward, and we're all mostly doing our own thing, but also joining instances together.
Yeah, so, I mean, we chose to not allow player ships in this, just in case we got some new people join. And some people found that okay, and some people found that frustrating that they didn't have their own ships. So maybe next time we'll change it and allow player ships and have a higher level map, but with some low level stuff for the beginners as well.
Yeah, that may be something we'll have to tweak a little more.
Yeah, but overall I think it was okay. We were on it for a good few hours.
Yeah. In the upcoming events, after this cast, we will have Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Tomorrow, May 14th, we will have Don't Starve Together. Next weekend is Mountain Blade Warband on the 20th, and Grid Autosport on the 21st.
It's a shame that the Grid Autosport event is then, because I'm on holiday and I quite enjoy that one.
Just bring your computer to the place with no internet.
I'll be on a boat with no internet, so...
Yeah.
Excuses. There's satellite internet these days.
Yeah, that's so expensive though.
And full of all the latency you can get. And loss.
That's okay, I can just blame crashing on the latency.
So, in tech news, the Pyra handheld mini computer is now available for pre-order. If some of you folks remember the Open Pandora project, this is pretty much the follow-up. It's the same overall case, same overall form factor, new, more powerful device, a dual-core ARM CPU, 1.5 GHz. It has a mobile chip for LTE even, lots of goodies. It's probably still best as an emulating box, but you can run a fully fledged computer operating system on it. It actually comes with a full Debian install.
I kind of like the idea of this as well.
I so did like the idea of this back when the Open Pandora first came out. Then it took years to come out, and I didn't care anymore, and after I also stopped caring because of smartphones. But it's definitely a niche for some people. I mean, it has a full keyboard.
Right, it's a mobile device with a full physical keyboard that you can do all the hacking on it that you want.
So yeah, if you want to hack the planet, you can take this one all over the planet.
It's probably a useful device if you're working in data centers as well. It's certainly a lot smaller than a laptop.
Yeah, but honestly, it needs some serious scaling to be useful for text input. I mean, you don't want the terminal to be the size it would be on a normal 720p screen on that little thing.
That depends on how good your eyes are.
Do you want your eyes to stay as good as they are?
Well, indeed.
So, moving on in tech news, Nvidia has revealed their new GTX lineup, the 10 series with the 1070 and 1080. Each of these cards is supposedly more powerful than the Titan X. Even the 1070 is more powerful than the Titan X. And it costs about as much as a current 970. At least the reference prices.
Yeah, they got some huge performance wins on this.
Yeah.
And that's even more so when you're talking about for VR applications, which at the moment doesn't apply too much to us Linux users. But if you're looking for the latest and greatest high-end GPUs, you may want to wait for these to be released.
Yeah, unlike me, who has had the new card for, a month? So I knew it was coming, really. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform in the real world.
But I don't know how they got these performance gain. Is this all owed to just going down the processing node to 4 or 60 nanometers or whatever they are now? Is that where all the performance is coming from?
I'm not really sure. I saw a claim that they had a huge R&D budget for this series, like more than usual, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I believe the R&D budget also includes the stuff that means we go down another processing node.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Godot engine release is at 2.0.3 now, and I think Hero has been reporting a few bugs prior to this release, right?
Yes, but actually I'm not sure if any of my reported bugs were even in this. Actually, one of them probably was, so it would include that fix, but
Okay, so this was a separate branch.
besides the very many bug fixes and other small updates, the most noticeable thing for most people will be that the built-in class reference within the editor is a lot more complete now, so there's fewer functions that are undocumented.
That should be useful.
Which I find more important than any new features. Document the ones you have first.
Yeah, I've been playing with Godot for a couple of weeks, and the documentation that's there is great, but the documentation that's missing is very frustrating.
Yeah, the community has been pushing towards documenting a lot more, and
Yeah.
they've done a great job.
I'm currently working on the plugin development for a different software project, completely not game related, during my workday, and they have not documented well at all. They don't even have a class reference for just about anything. It's frustrating as hell, so I love well-documented software now more than ever. Vulkan made another very impressive showing in form of a gameplay demo of the new Doom during Nvidia's release of the aforementioned cards, or release announcement. It looked awesome, played at very high quality with quite the high FPS, and well, it's good to see Vulkan already going into a big mainstream title, even though it's not out on release. It will come a bit later. But it seems like with that being a full AAA game that actually has Vulkan support coming out, this seems more serious than DirectX 12 now, because except for Ashes of Singularity, what actually has DirectX 12?
Right, and this is not just any game, it's, as you said, a very big AAA game, and there's a lot of visibility on Doom.
Yeah, it's going to be good, this one. Was there any news about it coming to Linux natively?
No, that's why this is a Vulkan news item, not a Doom news item.
It seems unlikely that they would port it to Linux thanks to Bethesda, but some users have tried the closed alpha that they had previously in Wine and reported it in the AppDB, and it had a platinum rating. That was with OpenGL.
That's pretty good.
In Wine staging, the Vulkan support is also very good, so if you wanted to use Vulkan, that should be fine too. But it's not a Linux game, so. As for general gaming news, Running with Rifles was recently updated with a bunch of new tweaks and small features, but the biggest thing is support for the Steam Workshop. Already on the workshop, there's 2 mods which have been released by the developer. One is the previously promised Running with the Dead mod, which is a zombie modification. It's pretty cool. It completely reworks all the factions and has a bunch of balance adjustments. It's basically a completely different game. As well as a racing mod, which is a lot more like a template for other modders to make games from. Speaking of other modders, there's some that are themed after World War I, World War II, and even a Mass Effect setting, which I thought was pretty interesting. To go along with this update, Running with Rifles is currently 50% off on the Steam store. Another big update, but in distance, the Creativity update. This included a whole lot of features that were previously in the experimental branch that they have, but the coolest thing to me is they added 2 new official tracks. So, more things to race on.
And the level editor has been improved tremendously as well.
Yeah, they added a lot more objects and ways of configuring those. They also added a little more to the soundtrack. It's a huge list of features. Some of the physics were tweaked a little bit, and the camera. They added basically a new mechanic for avoiding obstacles, which is you can now hold a button to fire all your thrusters downward, that way,
Upward.
or upward, so that you'll force your car down.
I mean, you could kind of do that anyway, but it was a bit more tricky.
You couldn't fire all of them at the same time. So this is specifically so that you can jump and then force yourself back onto the track right away if there's an obstacle.
That's true, yeah.
Among other things.
Or you can drive on the ceiling.
Well, yeah, driving on the ceiling you could do before. The problem was if it angled too sharply, you would have to fire your forward thrusters, but now you can just fire all of them. But yeah, this is a huge update, and very awesome. I raced through the 2 new tracks that they released, but nobody's played it yet to try to compare my scores against. Or for me to compare my scores against.
I will have a go after the cast, I promise. I will try and beat your score.
Crypt of the Necrodancer also received an update. This one added 2 new remix soundtracks to add to their other very many already existing soundtracks in the game. I think there's 6 soundtracks in the game now, maybe, which you can select per character. I could be wrong on that count, but the music in that game is obviously very integral to the experience, and new soundtracks is cool.
It's not a game I've played, and it looks slightly interesting.
It's basically if you took a roguelike, or took Rogue, just a traditional dungeon crawling turn-based game, and made it so that the turns were timed and to the tempo of the music. It's a really awesome spin.
Oh, that's very nice.
Stasis got a Linux beta. It's a top-down isometric horror point-and-click adventure. And I have not played this at all. Any of you guys have it? Tried out the beta?
I'm afraid I don't have it, no.
Nope. I'm afraid of horror games.
Well, but this one has a really nice-looking art style, so it's got that one going for it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
But one really, really awful thing is, on the announcement post by the developer that the Linux beta is available, he used a lot of all caps. That's really awful.
Maybe the developer needs a new keyboard.
His caps lock was stuck. It does look like an interesting game. I may pick this up in the next couple of weeks and have a look at it.
Cool. So, Code Mystics, the developer of Atari Vault, has been seeking Linux beta testers, which is not something that I can say I ever expected. This is basically the anthology of classic Atari games, and they got a lot of responses and are no longer looking for more beta testers, but this is almost a confirmation that it's coming, right?
Well, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you already have code for people to test, it's pretty clear.
Yeah. So, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but this stuff they have released on pretty much every platform imaginable since the actual original games came out.
Yeah, they always release like special hardware that has only this and so on, but I didn't really expect them to port it to new things.
Yeah, it's actually been ported to new things quite often. My aunt had one on the original PlayStation that also had all the old Atari classics.
And some of it's even got multiplayer as well, so that could be quite fun.
Yeah, I think it might have even said networked multiplayer. Let me check that before we continue.
Now that would be a cool addition. Does it have ET?
I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, so it does have online and local multiplayer, as well as support for Steam leaderboards.
But it doesn't have ET. How am I supposed to have fun without the worst game of the 80s or pretty much ever?
You just have to find that landfill.
Didn't they already find it?
Yeah, they did.
And we have Civilization 6 has been announced, with confirmed Linux support from Asper, I believe.
They didn't say who was porting it. They said that they would release more details in the future.
Okay.
But they did confirm Linux support.
And Shortwin is going to come out, as I've hinted at before, on the 17th of May. It's next Tuesday, if you're listening to this live. So, a nice stealth game to look forward to if they have control over the outstanding technical issues.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Should one. In Case of Emergency, Release Raptor is a game being developed by Arson Games, who released Star Wars Rogue and AI War. It is to get a Linux release, which was previously not mentioned. It looks kind of interesting. I guess you're a raptor that's running around and trying to destroy stuff. But in my opinion, the raptor does not have nearly enough feathers. I guess there's still time for them to adjust that, right?
Sure.
Maybe?
Sure. You have the same problem with Ark, of course.
Yes.
Will we ever get away from these romanticized dinosaurs we all grew up with? I mean, will they ever become popular with feathers? Can people take birds seriously compared to lizards?
Avian intelligence has taught us a lot more than lizard brains.
I didn't get that one at all.
That's okay. We can take it out. The ship Remastered has recently got encrypted Linux depots. So this is a remake of the previous ship. I forgot what the subtitle was. But anyway, it's basically a multiplayer game where each person has another person that they have to kill while trying to avoid the person that's trying to kill them, and nobody knows who's trying to kill who.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's ship remastered, not remastered.
Oh. Get it? Remastered? Okay. Well, good to know.
Oh yeah, they also said it in their FAQ that they are both planned and for later in development.
Oh, the port?
Yeah, Linux and Mac ports.
Okay. Well, we can assume that they are making progress.
The up-and-coming Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide Definitive Editions have signs of Linux support, which is not entirely surprising because the first Dead Island already was on Linux, and Deep Silver, the publisher of these games, has been very, very nice to us over the last year or more.
Yeah, this is cool. The Definitive Editions look to be just graphical update with all the DLCs of each game, but...
And apparently a fair amount of bug fixing as well.
Okay, that's cool.
I don't know where I read that, and I'm not sure it was an official source, but let's hope so. There was a few bugs in Dead Island. None that really stopped me from playing the game, but some that were slightly irritating.
It's also the first time that Dead Island Riptide would be coming to Linux.
That somehow smells like the Metro situation again, just with the order of the titles reversed.
Oh, it's very, very similar. Which, for the Metro series, it seemed like the effort was mostly so that they could put it out on the current generation of consoles. So I wonder if that's the case here, but either way, good for us, right?
Yep, I'm not going to complain at this.
Neither am I. I'm going to play this and probably enjoy it.
Though my wallet is looking a lot less healthy these days with the number of Linux games we now have. You know, before it was easy when we just had one or two, but now it's a different story.
And now for some golfing action with Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf, which has been released with Linux support.
This is interesting because this is the more sports-oriented golfing game as opposed to miniature golf or some other spin on that.
A little bit more realistic than Wii Golf then, right?
Just a little bit.
But not much more than never put. Yeah, but interesting. Is that like a big license? Because these graphics look like actually professional studio stuff.
I believe it is.
It looks like it could be from some big publisher, but it's not. So, I'd actually never heard of this game before. But I'm sure there are people who would definitely fit into the niche this appeals to.
Yeah, the publisher is called Perfect Golf Incorporated, which doesn't sound like they usually do a lot of Call of Kill Heroes, Halos of Doom.
It doesn't sound that way, does it?
Stellaris, the 4X strategy game by Paradox Interactive, has been released.
Right.
And this is one I'm very interested in. I like the look of this.
Yeah.
It's apparently much more approachable than other 4Xs by Paradox.
Yet still with lots of depth. I've heard some people say that the reason that it's so much easier to get into is because there's just so much space. You know, you're in space, so...
Infinite amount of space?
But since you're so spread out in the beginning, depending on how you have the option set, at least, it's less likely that you're just going to get crushed by your neighbors.
Yeah, I also heard that the entry into the game is always easier than Europa Universalis, for example, because whenever you start Europa Universalis or Crusader Kings, you are a country in a certain period of time with already established facts of the politics, wars going on or maybe not, and some balance of power that you are part of.
Right.
And so you're limited. In Strauss, you're apparently always just entering the universe as far as I recall.
Right.
So you're just always easing in from a fixed point, and then things unfold. So you don't have to cope with the reality of thousands of years of history already on your back.
Yeah, you can decide like the ideals that your faction holds and so on. So if you're ever looking for some galactic real-time 4X grand strategy, then here it is. I'd say it's more grand strategy than 4X, but they kind of overlap a lot.
Grand facts strategy, whatever.
Paradox game.
Yeah,
That narrows it down.
it actually does.
Moving on to crowdfunding news. There's a game on Kickstarter called Insomnia, which is a retro-futuristic role-playing game. The story is that you're on a space station which is on its way to some rendezvous point where humanity will try to rebuild itself. They've released a playable Linux demo, so for anybody that wants to go check that out, that's always a nice thing for developers to provide. If the grand strategy in Stellaris isn't your thing, then perhaps the being on a station that's traveling through space is.
Did you ever stop to consider the irony of a station moving because station comes from stationary?
Yeah. They really should call it spaceship, but that's okay. But it's like the colony ship sort of idea, except it seems a little darker.
Don't make this any deeper than it should have been.
Well, should this have been the close of the cast?
Yes.
So, thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you all for listening in. We have opportunities for you, great opportunities to give us your feedback. We have a feedback email address, cast@steamlug.org. We are on IRC, on Freenode, on the channel SteamLUG. We are on Twitter, @SteamLUG, on Google+, plus SteamLUG, and on YouTube, we are the user SteamLUG. So, again, thanks for listening in, and bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I
Call of Kill Heroes, Halos of Doom.